Welcome back once again, another Thursday. That means it's Gear Talk time. That's right, it's me, Cody Booker, aka Cab, aka Cab652, aka that guy with Broadcast Gaming, aka that guy. If you've noticed right there through every video, there's been a Playboy picture just right up in the corner. So there's another thing that, you can notice in the room. I'll point out now and then. So today's video, we're going to be talking about possibly one of the most deadly characters to ever exist. Possibly the most renowned. He was only in, as a main focus, one game, but, I mean, he was so powerful in what was shown from him. You can't deny the strength and perfection of this character. No, it's not Ty. Of course it's not. It's Franklin. I mean, the guy was so important, they even gave him a last name. Some characters don't even get a last name. Chaps? What's Chaps' last name? Chaps doesn't have a last name. Franklin does. Franklin Tsoko. Okay, so we are actually going to talk about Franklin today. And you might be wondering how I said a few weeks ago, oh, we're going to talk about things for Gears 5 leading into it, and then we get all the info we need, and we're on the right track. Well, yeah, I did say that, and I guess if I really wanted to connect everything, Franklin could possibly still be alive and make an appearance in 5. He could. I mean, it's kind of left up in the air towards the end of everything with him if he's alive or not. But I mean, Franklin could be around. He could. And I mean, I made a theory video about like the new leader of the new Stranded, with Griffin, and Franklin could be his first in command. It could all tie together in the end somehow. Yeah. Honestly, I just want to make a video about Franklin because I went through and not a lot of people have ever made videos on Franklin. And I figured he played a key role in a video, not a video, but, well, I guess for my theory video he did. But in the game, he played a key role in the first one. And, he's mentioned in the books. And there was a DLC that involved him with the second game for Road to Ruin. So, obviously someone cared enough to put him in everything. So, yeah, let's take a look at Franklin, shall we? Alright, so Franklin is actually a Stranded. And I know, surprisingly, after we see him for the first time, but the thing that really catches a lot of people off is Franklin was a Stranded leader. He was a leader of an outpost. Now, when it comes to the Stranded hierarchy for everything, it's not like there's just one leader that rules over all Stranded. It doesn't work like that. It pretty much runs like an outpost has a leader, pretty much. Someone who is in charge of that group of Stranded. For instance, Griffin was in charge of his Stranded outpost. He was the leader. Franklin was the leader of his outpost, and Chaps was also in his group, so he was the leader of Chaps too. If you go to where Cole at his hometown, when he returned home, the Stranded that were there overtook the stadium, and he was pretty much considered like a god amongst men, amongst many, and they had a leader. The female leader that meets you in 3 that comes up and says, hey, how's it going? She's the leader of that outpost. So Franklin actually had a high standing amongst the Stranded, or at least for his outpost wise. For instance, if other Stranded groups came and they had to talk to the leader of that Stranded outpost, they would go to Franklin. Franklin was the one who led it and was the one who made the decisions at the very end of things. Another thing about Franklin that is brought up kind of earlier on, but we get a lot more of it to Road to Ruin, is he is actively looking for Maria upon Dom's behalf. In the first game, it is mentioned like, hey, do you have any info regarding that thing I asked you to look into? And he says nothing new's come up or he hasn't learned anything, but if he did, he would tell him. Him and Dom are very good friends by what we were able to gather, not really from one, again, but from like the book, for instance, when... and we'll get into this soon for his history, but when it comes up to Dom approaching Franklin, because at the end of 2, spoiler, but his stuff kind of gets attacked by the Locust, Dom comes up to him and says, hey, why don't you join the COG? If you join, you'll be safe. If you join, I mean, obviously you can hold your own. You join, you'll be fine, and you can help us take down the Locusts. That's something Dom offered him, and I have a feeling that Dom really wouldn't have offered that to any random Stranded. I feel like Dom would, though, go up to Stranded and be like, if you want to survive, come with us, because Dom's a nice guy like that. But Franklin told him, I'm not going to join. I'm not interested in that. What you guys want to do with this world, when this war is over, if you guys win, I want nothing to do with that, because your idea of normal is not what I would probably like. So him and Dom have a really good relationship as far as we know. We don't really know when they first met, but probably while Marcus was in prison. And something happened where he owed Dom a favor and they became close. So I would say they're not best buddies like Marcus and Dom, but they're definitely friends to the point where Dom actually does care for Franklin, and Franklin is willing to help out Dom whenever he can get any information on Maria and relay it to him. So while he doesn't really like the cog like most Stranded, Dom is kind of like that gray area where he's like, I understand you're with the cog, but you're still a very good person. So yeah, since I've already jumped onto it a few times now, let's talk about what Franklin's done throughout the Gears story, as far as we know and what we've seen from the games. Now, Franklin was born before E-Day, obviously, because he's definitely got some gray to him. He's not old, but probably mid-30s, if not his really late 20s. He's able to pretty much have the respect of the other Stranded that are in his area. They consider him their leader, so he definitely has some experience, or at least, like, in some regards to other Stranded groups. He could be vicious to the point where it's like, I'm going to lead or else you're going to get off. It could be something like that. But Franklin was definitely born before E-Day, and he became the leader of his Stranded outpost. We don't really know how or by what any means he did it, but he's the leader, and pretty much everyone there respects him as the leader. At one point, he did come across Dom, and they became friends, as I said. And he is now actively, or was actively, looking for Maria for Dom, while Dom was also going out and looking. He wasn't going door to door for every Stranded saying, hey, have you seen her? But if anyone relayed information on Stranded, or he knew that someone might know, he would get the information and give it to Dom. That was pretty much what he did post Gears of War, before Marcus was released from prison. During, however, Gears of War, Delta ended up coming up to him because Dom ended up stating, I know someone who can help us out, and the help they needed his junker so that they could get to where they were going. So they approach him, and immediately the moment you enter the outpost or come close to it, everyone is extremely on end about the Gears coming towards them, because they are Stranded. Their story is they don't like the Gears because of what happened with Prescott's decision. The only one that's really like just stand down and chill out everyone is Franklin. Franklin's not a fan of the other three that are with Dom, but Dom's there, and he's like, if Dom is here, we don't have to worry. We don't have to feel like there's going to be a problem or people are going to start shooting. If Dom's here, Dom at least know what he's doing. He's not going to walk in guns blazing. We're going to talk to him and figure out why they're here in the first place. And Dom ends up calling in his favor to get the junker so that they can go, I forget where, but they're going to the research facility because they were going to drop the sonic resonator. And you can see how long it's been since I played the first game. And once they go there, pretty much he says, I just need to borrow it. We'll probably bring it back. I don't think they ever brought it back. But they go, and in exchange for that, they need to go not only take it, but they need to gas it up. And in exchange, Franklin says, I'm going to hold on to Cole and Baird, because if the Locusts decide to pull shit, I'm going to have some backup, and these are 2 trained Gears, so I'm kind of okay keeping these guys while you go gas up. And it also kind of worked out that Cole and Baird were left behind. They didn't care much for Baird, but Cole, they knew who Cole was, so they loved him no matter what, and they were treating him like a hero. So it's a good thing they leave like Marcus and Baird behind, or things probably could have got sketchy with how Baird normally acts. And at the time, he was somewhat defiant towards Marcus on just everything. So kind of a good thing Cole was left there, or even if you left Dom, it's kind of a good thing at least one of those two would have been there just to like ease the tensions that were going on. So after they take the junker and they're going to get it fueled up over at Chap's gas station, because Chap's is a godsend, no lie. They come back and the Locusts have already started to attack, and they help fend off the Locusts. The outpost is kind of destroyed, but it's still functioning in there. As far as we know, after that, Franklin stayed there for a while. He didn't just up and leave after that happened. Now, between the events of Gears 1 and 2, there's a couple months in between, or at least a month at a minimum, because the books and comics actually tackle what happened in that in-between time. And that's also when we hear from Franklin again. Is actually in the Asphalt Fields book, kind of towards the beginning, when Dom is having a conversation with him. It's at least, in the book, it's not an event that happened during the events while you're reading it, but they always start off the books with like this little blurb of something going on that either happened recently or happened in the past. And one of the things that happened quite recently was Dom talking to Franklin about joining the COG, take the Lifeboat Initiative, and you're free. You don't have to worry about being stranded, fighting off the Locust every day for survival. You're free, you're good, you're in the clear. Franklin turned this down, though, because he really did not trust the Cog at all. He does not like the Cog. He likes nothing about them, much like the Stranded in general. But he stated, whatever you want as normal, I'm not going to probably approve. Because Franklin, he somewhat enjoys his life as a Stranded leader. He's kind of okay with it. And he's not a big fan of the rules and everything that the Cog stand for, or what they want in general. Because remember, the Cog aren't really the good guys in the story. No one's really a good guy. Everyone has their own reasons for doing things. It just so happened the war between the Locust and the Cog broke out, and if you're going to take the best bet, if you're a human, you're probably going to side with the Cog, because if not, your entire species is wiped off the planet. So the Cog, even though they seem like they're doing the right thing, no one's really the good guy in the games, or the books, or the comics, or hopefully the movie that'll be coming out. But no one is good. No one is. And Franklin understands that. He knows no one's the good guy. Hell, even the Stranded aren't good. But he's like, this is how I'm living. This is how I prefer my life. I'm not going to deal with what the Cog are trying to enforce once this is over. So Franklin does turn Dom down. But he doesn't say, like, I'm done with you. I want nothing to do with you. No, him and Dom are friends until what happens kind of in 2, because it becomes very vague. This is where things start to get a little awkward. So, Gears of War 2, let's talk about Franklin. Now, there are 2 different ways that Gears of War 2 affects Franklin. Franklin becomes really odd in this one because he's in the base game. In the original game, when Prescott's giving his speech and Chaps is sitting there listening on the radio, you see him in the background. He's there. He's definitely in Jacinto. He's alive. He made it because after a while you're learning too, Franklin's outpost did get overrun and everyone fled. So Chaps and Franklin ended up making it out. Now, this is where things get odd, because if you want to go by the normal timeline for Gears of War, this is the last time we actually see Franklin. This is the very last time he's doing anything very heavy in the story. Well, not even heavy. He's listening to the radio in 2. But the last time we see him story-wise in the main story of Gears of War. The alternate timeline, however, where the only events that are changed are Road to Ruin, Franklin plays a role in Road to Ruin. They come across Franklin. He's been captured. He did escape from his outpost, but he ended up getting captured during his escape. Probably they made it to Jacinto, and then the Stranded were leaving Jacinto, and that's how he was caught. Now, when he left, he was caught and brought down to the Hollows, and he's imprisoned. When Marcus and Dom come across him, when they're disguised as Therons, he's trying to pick a fight with them, but then they show off like, hey, Franklin, how you doing? It's us. Franklin has more information on Maria, but the problem is Road to Ruin takes place after the Dom and Maria scene we get where Maria's done in the franchise. So, they go throughout trying to break through, or at least get to a point where they're not in the imprisonment area anymore. And when they finally do get through, they get to the point where the Gears are going to keep going on. Marcus and Dom are going to continue on. They're going to try to get to the main force of the Hollow, and they're going to try and take down the Queen. Franklin hears this and says, you guys are crazy. I'm out of here. I'm getting to the surface. Which Dom and Marcus don't have a problem with, because at the end of the day, even though he's a Stranded, Franklin is still a civilian, technically. So Franklin books it, and they're just like, it's probably for the best, because we're fully armored and fully equipped. You just have a Gnasher and your normal street clothes. You're probably not going to make it that far. So that's when Franklin finally does leave. Now, the problem is that that's also where Franklin's story ends in the alternate timeline. So there's 3 different scenarios that could have happened to Franklin. Either A, he stayed in Jacinto and Chaps and them left, and he's still around. He's still alive somewhere. Like I said, they flee to Jacinto and he's still there. Option 2 is with the alternate timeline. If you want to take that one, he escaped to the surface and he is probably still alive. Option 3, if you want to mesh everything together, he was captured and imprisoned in the Hollow. But the problem is, after Jacinto was flooded, that flooded the Hollows also, and there's a good chance Franklin's just straight up dead right now because he would have drowned down there with everyone else. So Franklin kind of is left in the air because I want to assume by the main story-wise, he would have been captured again and brought down and imprisoned, but if you take Road to Ruin never happening because it was cut, that means he would still be imprisoned down there. He was never rescued, and then everything was flooded through. So there's a good chance that Franklin could be dead right now. A very strong chance. But at the same time, if Road to Ruin never happened and we never saw what happened to him, he could still just be in Jacinto and just never went with Chaps over to Mount Kadar. So Franklin could still be alive. I want to assume he's alive and could have possibly continued on, and we could see him at least in a cameo in later games. Maybe even a skin in 5. That would actually be kind of hilarious to see. So yeah, Franklin could possibly be alive or dead. It's not really known at this point. And that's pretty much Franklin. That's his character. Again, it's not even that he's an interesting character, but he's like, he holds a role we don't really know that much about in Gears. For instance, like, he was a stranded leader. We don't see a lot of those, or at least get names of many stranded in general. He was a leader of the stranded, you know? He had a kick-ass shirt. He had a Brumach tee, which means that during the war and everything, people were printing off t-shirts still. And one of their things to do was like, hey, let's print off this giant Goliath of a beast that's been killing all of our people and put it on a shirt. I guess Franklin's into that. I'm not going to judge. He was a character that appeared in a DLC that was actually cut content from the main Gears of War 2 game, so that's interesting. He could still be alive, you know? That's Franklin. Like, I'm not going to lie, there's not too much Franklin information we have, but I'm willing to stick with what we know right now. Yeah. Also, he had a last name. Not many people have a last name. Griffin doesn't even have a last name, if I remember correctly. You know, Tsoko. That's an interesting last name. That's your Franklin info, everybody. Yeah, Franklin Tsoko, best stranded leader side character we could have ever come across aside from Griffin. Yeah. So that's gonna do it for this video this week. I guess, yay for you if you ever want a Franklin video. Again, I noticed no one ever covered him, so I thought I'd be the first. So there's your Franklin video. Thanks for watching again, whatever day you watch this, whatever time. Like, comment, subscribe for BCast Gaming. This is Gear Talk every Thursday. My name's Cody. Again, like, comment, subscribe. I say it twice now at the end every time. I might as well keep it going. Thank you guys for watching. On a serious note, this really does mean a lot. Can't wait to get to the Gears 5 stuff coming up soon. We got books. High Busters is still going. You guys have a great rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time it is, even if it's morning. Have a great one, guys.